Hey guys, happy Tuesday to you. And look, we have Tex with us today. How about that? Hey Tex.
Howdy, 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 howdy.
How are you doing, sir?
How you doing?
How you doing? How you doing? Hope everybody's week is going pretty good. It's happy Tuesday afternoon. Two kind of nasally dudes today. You just had a coughing fit right before we came on, and I still have part of this cold that I'm dealing with, and that kind of sucks. But hopefully I won't have a coughing fit in the middle of this. So,
as the saying goes, the show must go on.
It will. And luckily I have the mute that I can, I'll just be sitting here looking like. But yeah. So, hey Fisher, Freaky Geeks here. Hey Roger. Hey Pam. Cowboy's here. Hi Cowboy. I think I got just about everybody earlier. Hey Gary. Gary's in therapy but listening. Hope everything's going good, my friend. What else is it?
You don't sound nasally according to Cowboy. You sound snotty.
I sound snotty. Paul sounds snotty today.
I was very snotty right before we got on. There.
Hey, Patty.
I have a food allergy, folks, and I don't know what triggers it. But what happens is, and if you ever see me at a conference, we go out to eat, you'll probably get to see it in action. It hits randomly, and I sneeze like 10 to 20 times in a row. And by the time I'm done, I look like I've smoked about 40 blunts. And
there it goes.
So, okay, we can't make Paul laugh because he's going to start coughing.
Yeah. I hear the mucus now. Thanks, Fisher.
Yeah. So, and a little bit of folks, I'm going to, okay, what are the nastiest freaking sounding diseases that we can think of? Okay, some of them are gout. That sounds nasty. It just sounds gross, right? Mm-hmm. Scabies. That sounds gross, right? But I'll tell you, one of the things that all my life, I don't know, when people say it, it just grosses me out. And it's always done it. And it's shingles. Whoever the hell names these diseases or whatever. I mean, shingles. Who came up with that name? You know,
that
or gout. Where did that come from?
Shingles just sounds like something that should go on your roof, not a disease. I don't know where that came from.
But I mean, what do you picture when if you didn't know what shingles were, mm-hmm. and I mean, the disease, right. And somebody says, "Oh, well, they've got shingles." I mean, to me, I'm thinking scaly,
Yeah.
nasty looking, you know,
Yeah,
person you
like you
don't.
said, scaly looking skin and stuff. Not really,
Mhm.
just kind of gross looking. Measles, yeah.
Exactly,
You said
exactly.
measles, chicken pox.
And the thing about it is this. I remember back in the day because the whole shingles thing comes from chickenpox. Now I know this is not on theme with the show, but we're talking Halloween, gross and scary.
Yeah,
This shit is
it's
scary to me. It's gross. Okay. Um, but I got a little story. Fisher says mumps. I got a little story about mumps. I had mumps one time when I was a teenager. You don't want to do that.
no
But anyway, threw me off. Dadgummit.
talking
I don't know
about
where I was going with it.
shingles.
Yeah,
You had
shingles
scaly
just sound nasty,
hmm
you know, and it is the one disease, or I guess, and that's the only thing you can call it is a disease, and that's another thing that makes it sound nasty. It's a disease, you know.
Wow.
But yeah, Alita, I agree.
Yeah.
It sounds like the freaking plague, right?
hmm
I mean, well, my point is, yours truly has, but I'm sorry, freaking shingles.
hmm
I found out today. I've been hurting for 2 weeks. Or, no, I'm sorry, 2 or 3 days. 2 weeks. Where did I get that at? It's right on the back of my right shoulder. I went to the doctor today, and I'm like, and it is. It hurts, folks.
hmm My
And it's
my
ran.
mother-in-law had it really bad, I guess, all over her face and her head, and I didn't go over there to see her while she had it. It's all cleared up now, but she kept
Right,
saying how horrible it is. So yeah, I can understand that.
and it all revolves around nerve pain. So
hmm
there's not because every once in a while my shirt will hit it the spot just right, and it will feel like somebody jabs a needle in my shoulder blade,
Mm.
and then it starts stinging and burning and then aching. So if you see me wince every once in a while, that's when it flares up. And it constantly itches.
Now,
So my whole
is it like chicken pox where if it itches real bad, you're not supposed to itch it because it will scar or
will spread. It will spread.
yeah.
Um, because what it is the chicken pox.
Mm.
It's live chicken pox virus is what it is. And if you get if you get the blisters and stuff, which that's when it gets bad, when you get the blisters. So it is nasty looking if it gets really bad.
hmm
The It will enter through the hair follicles.
Mm.
It will seep down. How gross is this, folks? It
Oh
will seep
God.
down through the hair follicles and then infect that. So, and that's how it spreads. So it's so I gotta go pick up my medicine after the
hmm
show.
hmm
And it's just, but I had the mumps one time. That's where I was going. I had the mumps one time when I was 14, 15 years old. Well, I'm not going to eat my lunch. Uh,
That's one way to die. Just keep replaying this. Talk about illnesses and stuff,
yeah,
and you won't be hungry to eat.
right.
Yeah.
So, thanks, Alita. I appreciate it. So I had the mumps one time when I was like 14, 15 years old,
Mhm.
and they don't always go here.
Yeah.
Okay, when a lot of people make mumps, they swell up here, right? No, no, no. not for us males. It
Oh.
yes.
Oh.
Yes. I woke up one morning with a softball in my underwear.
Oh. Glad you didn't say grapefruit.
So Kelly says, please stop, you're making me itchy. So yeah, and I'm like I'm freaking out, right? I'm a teenage kid, and I'm like, oh, my junk is swelled, right? And I'm like, I'm hollering at my mom and everything, and she comes in and she looked, well, you got the mumps. That's probably what it is, but we'll take you to the doctor. So it took me a little while to get over that. I couldn't wear jeans, had to wear sweats all the time, couldn't go to school. You couldn't, and it was sore. It was you couldn't, you didn't dare walk up and down stairs. I'm just saying, you don't want to jiggle anything. You can't get nothing. It's just
can't run. You can't really walk right.
No, you can't do nothing. Can't do nothing. You sit in a chair or lay in a bed with your legs spread.
Well, these are scary campfire stories. Wow.
But it's
so hopefully, my wife is we're both, I think the doctor said 53 and over you're supposed to get, and why 53? I thought it was 50 and over you're supposed to get shingle shots. That's just weird.
Well, and here we are at this age, and we're all getting freaking shingles, or we can. And what do we have to thank it for? Oh, those chicken pox parties they had back in the day.
Yeah.
Because if one kid on the block got chicken pox, everybody brought their kid over to play, so everybody got exposed to it. Because you only got it once.
Yep.
You can only get it once, supposedly.
Get it while you're a kid. That way,
later in life, we're going to torture you. And
Patty or somebody asked me. I think little Patty asked me if I got a cold while I was at Richmond. No, I actually got a cold, a real nasty cold, like the Tuesday or Wednesday before. I think I stayed home from work on Wednesday, and I felt terrible, and then it went away except for the stuffiness. And now I can't get this cough to go away. And I've heard people say that the cough lingers for like 2 weeks. So I'm like, that sucks. So I'm taking Mucinex DM, some kind of those little pearl cough medicine pearls, which I don't know that those two together seem to work pretty good. But I'm also doing cough drops with the cherry cough drops, which I think are fantastic. I can eat those as candy.
You know what? I had walking pneumonia one time when I was in the military, and was actually in basic training, and it was right before we were going to have to test out for PT, right? And you go from running miles at a time without a problem to you can't run you can't run a half a lap around the track without just about to die. And you can't, your energy, your strength is gone. You can't breathe. And I remember going to my drill sergeant and going, I just, I could do like 1 or 2 push-ups. I couldn't hardly run. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with me, drill sergeant, and he he's, I just think you're trying to get out of, working at doing PT or whatever, he's go ahead and go to sick call. So I came back with freaking walking pneumonia, and they gave me, now you can't have anything that is pleasurable in basic training as far as what to eat. I mean, it's, you're not allowed to have anything. So they took it so far as to, they give you straight up unflavored cough medicine. And this is nasty, bitter. Let me tell you, but I think that's what they ought to offer anyway, because I think it makes you want to get well so much so you don't have to take this medicine anymore.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Luckily they didn't give me any cough medicine, which is fine. I could stay away from that stuff. But today, so lately I've been having problems with my right eye being kind of blurry, and I wear contacts. So I'm just on my last contact for 6 months, and then I need to get another 6 months supply of it. So I went to the eye doctor. I figured I'd get it taken care of now and looked at. So now she found like an irritation on my eye. So now she's got me on these pills, and I'm telling you, these pills are that big. And I'm like, holy crap. Now all of a sudden, I was fine 2 weeks ago. All of a sudden I got a cold and I can't get rid of this cough. Now I got an irritation in my eye. I'm like, what the hell, dude? I'm falling apart. You're muted, by the way, Tex.
It kind of looks like your wife punched you or something.
She probably did. Actually, you know what? The dog probably did. One of the dogs probably did. Because when we're not giving one of the dogs attention, she just cries and cries and cries and cries and cries. Right. So if have your hand on her, pet her, then once you take it away, she just cries like crazy. But yeah, I can see her punching me in the. And then speaking
we've got scary stories. We're over the gross stuff now, or what do you think? You don't have any pus leaking out of your eyes, so that's good.
I don't have any pus. No, I don't know. Am I seeing any pus there? There's an image. I don't think I have any pus in my eye. It sounds like a song. Pus in your eye. Anyway, so what I figured that we would do today is, since Halloween is this week, I figured we would do some kind of scary ghost stories, stuff that you would, tell around the campfire and stuff. That's why I changed the background on here to campfire. So we're sitting around a campfire having fun. So I have a couple here. So I'm going to try and put them. Oops, what happened to it?
It's not Pink Eye Robert. I've already asked him about that.
No, it's not Pink Eye Robert. No. And if you, I don't know if any of you guys are familiar with Jeff Dunham. He's a ventriloquist comedian.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He does a funny bit. He's got twin boys. One of his boys has pink eye, or had pink eye one time. And, not that that's a laughing matter, but, they make jokes about the stuff. Hey, Krista. He does a really funny bit about pink eye and getting it from the dog. It is a funny story. You have to look it up. I think it was on his special when he was in Dallas or something like that. But he's funny. He's funny. Pus in the Eye by Boyle and the Shingles from the 1678 Plague album.
That's brilliant.
That is
Pus in the Eye by Boyle and the Shingles from the 1678 Plague album.
That is the comment of the day. That is
right.
I love
Spin that one up, DJ.
I love that one. Yeah, that's it. I'm going to star that one, and we are going to. Yeah, I love that one. I'm going to write that down. Anyway. So.
I was driving. I went to the store last night because I go to the store at weird hours because I work nights. So I'm up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. And when I get bored of watching, shows or writing or whatever, I go to the store, so I go to the store last night, and I'm driving around the neighborhood and all these, seeing all these Halloween decorations. I'm like, man, I should really take some pictures for Paul, and I'm like, they didn't have them lit up good. They like these giant skeletons and all this kind of stuff. Those are real popular, by the way. Mm-hmm. They don't. All they've got is the internal lights. They don't have any lights shining on them.
Mm-hmm.
which to me you have to have it lit up, or it just doesn't. You can't see the whole thing. It's a bright red light in the middle of something. Yeah.
Yeah. And really at 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't know if people leave their outside decoration lights on. I always turn mine off when we go to bed. So I used to have them on a timer, but I don't know what happened to that. So anyway.
That's what I thought about you, wasn't it?
You were thinking of me at 2 o'clock in the morning?
I was.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. I would say that I was thinking of you at 2 o'clock in the morning, but I wasn't. I'm sorry. Actually, kind of thinking of a pus in the eye. We are completely off the rails on this one.
Oh, absolutely.
We used to go to this pharmacy in the grocery store that I worked at, and one of the pharmacists, I don't know how we got onto the subject of pus, but I think my son had something going on with him, and it wasn't even pus. I don't know how my wife and the pharmacist got talking about his lungs and piss, and she came up. One of the two of them came up with piss and lungs. Yeah, that would be a good Battle Man name. Pus in the eye.
Yeah, that's that death metal stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, death metal. All right. Now that we've grossed everybody out, so here's one that I got from an email that I got from Anna, and I've read this on the show before, but it was a long time ago. So she was in high school from 1985 to 1989 in Massachusetts, and she ran on the track team for 3 of my 4 years. Did you just growl?
I said, "Ooh."
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
When I was a senior, I had a friend on the team named Rachel who was a sophomore, and her grandmother had recently passed away. She was very close with her and had a hard time dealing with her grandmother's passing. One day, after track practice in the locker room, Rachel confided in me that her grandmother was at practice. Like most typical high school tracks, it circles a field that is used for football, soccer, or lacrosse, and there were bleachers on both sides of the field for spectators. When we practiced, we had the entire track to ourselves, no football, soccer, or lacrosse players on the field, and there were no spectators in the stands, so if you looked over at the bleachers, they were completely empty. That day in the locker room, Rachel told me that during practice, she would look at the bleachers and sometimes she'd see her grandmother sitting there, watching her. I didn't doubt her, but when she told me this, I didn't doubt her when she told me this, but I was also a little skeptical, like most people are. The next time we had practice, I looked at the bleachers several times and never saw her grandmother, but I assumed that I probably wouldn't. Her grandmother was probably only visible to Rachel. On the last day of practice during my senior year, it was raining outside. We had our last meet in 2 days, and we were getting in our last strenuous and very wet practice for the year. As Greg Ogles would say, a very moist practice for the year. Rachel whispered to me that she had seen her grandmother sitting in the bleachers. I was the only one she had confided in about this, so she whispered it so no one else would hear it. I glanced over to the bleachers, but I did not see her grandmother, which didn't surprise me because I hadn't seen her all season. However, instead of seeing her, I did see a spot on the very bottom bleacher that wasn't wet. It was exactly the size and shape of someone sitting on the bleacher. I asked Rachel where on the bleachers her grandmother was sitting, and she pointed to the bleachers on the left side of the track and said right in the middle of the bottom bleacher. That was exactly where I had seen the dry spot, and when we went over to it, the spot was still dry. I never told Rachel that I saw her grandmother there. Let me start that over. I never told Rachel that I saw where her grandmother was sitting. I just nodded and said something comforting. I don't exactly remember what I said. It was 34 years ago. I graduated, and Rachel had 2 more years of high school track to go. I never did ask her if she continued to see her grandmother, but I will never forget my sighting of the dry spot on the rainy day in the bleachers. That was pretty cool. Hi, Little Twisted.
Interesting.
Yeah. This next one is from a friend of mine. His name is Ryan. After my dad passed away about 7 years ago, I became more spiritual than religious, and looked at things a whole lot differently, like most people do when their parents pass away. Well, I always have this kind of feeling in my gut when I know he's around. The first one, I'm driving through the middle of nowhere in Illinois on my way back home from Wisconsin. I associate the song "See You Again" with my dad. It came out about the time that he died, and we played it at his funeral. Well, the song came on, and I listened to it, cried, of course, and then changed the station to the same song at a different point in the song at a different station. So I listened to it again, cried, and changed the station. And I shit you not, it was playing the same song. So 3 different radio stations playing that same song. It's a rap song, but it was playing on a station that normally plays country music. So I turned on the radio and said, "All right, I know you're here. What do you have to say to me? What's going on?" And clear as day, I hear in my dad's voice, "Go have fun tonight. I'm going to take care of you." I used to gamble a lot, and my dad hated it. I was planning on going to the casino when I got home with the girl I was dating at the time, and I played 3-card poker. I didn't even know that was a game. A game that I had never played before, and hit a royal flush. It paid out 1,000 to 1 on a $5 bet.
Nice.
The next story happened about 9 months ago, and he writes, I was golfing one afternoon, and I had a butterfly constantly flying around my head and my cart as I was driving for 3 holes. And again, I had that gut feeling that my dad was around. So again, I said, "All right, what are you trying to tell me?" And again, clear as day, as if he was sitting or standing right next to me, he says that she's pregnant. And I said, "No way." And again, he said, "She's pregnant." I go back and forth a couple times, and he keeps saying she's pregnant. I didn't say anything to my wife or anyone because most people would look at you like you have 3 heads when you tell them stories like this, except people in our audience. 2 days after my golf outing, the dog jumps on the couch and nestles his head real gently under my wife's stomach, and she goes, "Easy, you weirdo. It's not like there's a baby in there." I said, "Well, let me tell you what happened to me the other day." 8 days later, she takes a pregnancy test, and it comes back positive that she's pregnant.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've met the wife and the baby, and everybody is fine. So I think it was his dad coming back to tell him that, hey, she's pregnant, and good luck with that.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
That's and you know them, huh?
Yeah. I know his mom. His mom's my neighbor, actually, and they're divorced from his dad, and she's remarried with somebody else next door, and they're great people. But yeah, he's been over here a couple times. He works on air conditioners and stuff. So he's a good guy. So I totally believe the guy. So.
So let's see here. Why can't I?
Searching the net, looking for one.
Yeah.
Okay. I got another one here. I got another one. And once again, thanks everybody for coming in here and joining us today on this Tuesday afternoon. I hope the weather's okay by everybody. It is unseasonably warm here in St. Louis. It's 80 degrees already, and I'm not liking it at all. It should late in October. It shouldn't be this hot. So
yeah, it's 80 here too, and we got storms rolling in tonight. So
we have storms coming on Halloween, but I think they're going to be in the morning, from what the forecast is.
It was supposed to rain over Halloween, but they changed it. We've got supposed to get rain tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night, and then it's supposed to clear up Thursday night, and then start raining Friday.
we'll probably getting what you guys had. Well, no. Yeah, we'll probably get what you guys have Wednesday on our Thursday. So
Yeah,
hopefully
probably.
hopefully it's just Thursday morning and it's done, so trick or treaters can come out and we can sit outside
Yeah.
and have a few drinks. And
But yeah, it's supposed to
80,
be 85 tomorrow.
wow, it's 82 where Little Patty is, and very very windy. Yes, it is. It's pretty windy out here too. So
Yeah, it's breezy here today too.
yeah, which could be why allergies are so bad.
Yeah.
This one here, I can't remember where I found it, but this was not an email that I received, but I found this on the net someplace. This gal's name was Mary that wrote this. So I was camping with my husband and family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There we go. I was camping with my husband and our family at a small remote lake in New Mexico. There were about 10 people in our group and another group of about 6 people in the next campsite over. It was nighttime, and both groups were doing typical activities, making s'mores, having drinks, and telling stories, when we all heard what sounded like a little girl yelling out for help. Neither group had children with them, but we were all positive we were hearing a little girl and decided to search the area we heard the noises coming from together. There was a field behind our campsites, and we all saw a very tall, pure white figure standing about 100 feet away from us in the field, making the noises. We think they were making the noises. We all agreed that this thing looked about 10 feet tall, skinny, and white as can be. We made our way closer to investigate, but whatever it was that we saw started backing off as we got closer. And then it disappeared into the trees. So we never really got a good look at what it was, and eventually decided to return to our respective campsites. All night long, we continued to hear a little girl calling out for help as we tried to sleep. I don't know how you could ignore that. That would be kind of freaky for me.
We got laughed at in the woods at camp one time.
For what?
We were sitting around camp.
Oh.
There was there was probably 8 or 9 of us sitting around camp one night, and we had a woman laugh off in the woods on one side of camp, and then a few minutes later, the same laugh off on the other side of the camp in the woods.
Wow. I when I was a kid, we camped a lot, and I don't think we ever heard anything weird coming out of the woods.
So I found some stories.
Alrighty.
This one is called White with Red. A man just moved into an apartment and heads to the receptionist to get his keys. The receptionist gave him the key with a smile, but warns him not to disturb the door with no number on his floor. He wondered why, but he didn't bother to ask. He was too busy in his new apartment to even care. After he finished unpacking, he began to get curious. He questioned why the receptionist would warn him of such things. So he stepped out of his apartment to check the door with no number. He tried the doorknob first, but it was locked. So instead, he got onto his knees and peeked through the keyhole. The apartment he was looking into was empty. His eyes scanned the whole place before stopping at a woman standing face against the wall in a corner. He noticed her pale skin, long black hair before stepping back and suddenly feeling perverted in a way for invading someone else's privacy. He brushed it off, assuming she was someone that didn't want to be disturbed. The next day, he got more curious about the woman and eventually went back. Straight away, getting onto his knees, he peeped through the keyhole and saw all red. Red. He assumed that the pale woman must have caught him peeking the last time and covered the hole with something red. He left the door alone and instead went down to the receptionist to ask questions. The receptionist sighed and asked, "You looked through the keyhole, didn't you?" He admitted to it, and so she felt obliged to tell him the story. She told him that a couple used to live in that apartment a long time ago, but the husband went crazy and killed his wife. However, this couple wasn't normal. They had pale skin, black hair, and red eyes. Here's another one called The Cabin. A hiker decided to go on a hike by himself, something he wasn't very used to. The whole day was normal. trees and bushes engulfed his surroundings. He enjoyed being outdoors in the mountains. Nothing seemed strange to him. That was until he was making his way back to his car. He figured an 8-hour hike was good enough. The sky was already getting dark, and he needed to get back. What was odd was how much he didn't recognize the trail back, and he began to panic. Night had already taken over, and all he had was a flashlight and no clue on how to get back. He knew it was already too late and too dangerous to keep going through the perilous forest. He began to worry that he would have to find shelter for the night, when almost luckily enough, he stumbled across a broken-down cabin. It was dark, and it seemed like no one had visited in years, but he knew it was the only place where he could rest until daylight, especially since his flashlight was running out of batteries. He knocked on the door a few times, but no one answered, so he let himself in, where strangely enough, a perfect bed fitted for one person awaited him in the center. He knew that if the owner came back, he could explain himself. He was sure that the owner wouldn't mind, or was maybe even dead. So he went ahead and got himself comfortable in the bed. As he tried to sleep, he couldn't ignore the collection of paintings around the room. Portraits of strange-looking people all peering at him, each wearing a smile that sent chills up his spine. Not too long after this, his exhaustion from the hike got the best of him, and he was able to ignore the faces. The next morning, he got up early and was shocked to see that there were no paintings around the room, but windows.
Interesting. I got one here. Many years ago, shortly after I graduated college, I got married. We immediately moved into a basement apartment because we were both college grads and broke. So that's all we could afford. Let me move this over here. Hang on a second. There we go. We rented it from an old lady who lived upstairs. Shortly after moving in, we realized that the apartment had a poltergeist, and we were soon terrified. Whatever or whoever lived in the basement with us would make it very clear over the next few weeks that it wanted to live alone and wanted us to get out. Dishes, glasses, and other items would fly off the shelf by themselves, and my wife was hit by flying objects several times. There was always the feeling that we were being watched. One night, when we were getting ready for bed, as soon as we walked into our bedroom, we heard a disembodied voice say, "Move out." We looked at each other and got the hell out of there. We moved out for good 2 days later and stayed with family who lived nearby. Luckily, whatever spirit was there didn't follow us. We later found out that the old lady who owned the building died a few months after this, and the building was completely torn down. And to this day, when we drive by, it is still an empty lot, just grass and trees. That was weird. My voice kind of went away for a second there.
Okay, so here's a really short one. A mother's call. A daughter was in her room upstairs doing her homework when suddenly she heard her mother call her down to dinner. She jumped up on her feet and began making her way towards the stairs. But before she even took a step, hands grabbed her and pulled her into the laundry room beside the staircase. She panicked before realizing it was her mother, her real mother, eyes watery and bloodshot. "Don't go down there, honey. I heard it too."
And your dog is wanting to get on the show as well.
Yes.
You want to hear the world's shortest horror story?
Yes.
The last man on earth sat alone in a room. There was a knock on the door.
Interesting. Let's see.
It was written and published in 1948 by Frederick Brown.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that would be kind of.
Here's one. Who's in my bed? A father went to say goodnight to his 7-year-old son, very well knowing that if he didn't, his son would have trouble sleeping. It was a nightly routine between them. He entered the dimly lit room where his son waited underneath his blanket. With the first glance, the father could tell there was something unusual about his son tonight, but couldn't put his finger on it. He looked the same, but he had a grin that drew from ear to ear. Yeah, I know. This is spooky, isn't it? You okay, buddy? The father asked. The son nodded, still with a grin, before saying, Daddy, check for monsters under my bed. The father chuckled a little bit, getting on his knees to check to satisfy his son. They're under the bed. Pale and afraid was his son, his real son. He whispered, Daddy, there's someone in my bed.
That's freaky. All right, here I got another one. Get it. There we go.
He's whining over here because somebody came in the house and he wants to go out and see him. So I'm going to let him out real quick so he will stop that.
Sounds like my girls. That's funny. All right. This is another one that I found. I just want to preface this email by saying that I never believed in ghosts until I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment about 10 years ago. I had just moved out of my parents' home and into a cool little apartment complex a few miles away, to have my freedom. I had only been in the apartment for a few nights when I came home from work one night to find the thick wooden board that went to the attic from the hallway smashed to pieces. Just in case, I took some pictures and sent the landlord an email to see if he had sent someone to do some kind of work in the attic. And he said no, that he hadn't. Shortly after I sent the email, the landlord called me and told me that the last couple of tenants that lived in the apartment had the same issues. He said that nothing else had happened in the apartment, just the board being broken a couple times, and assured me that he would replace the board. About a month or so later, I woke up in the middle of the night with a feeling that someone was rubbing my legs. I was so scared that I couldn't move. Finally, after what seemed like 30 minutes, the feeling stopped and everything in the apartment was quiet and still. After a few minutes of the quiet, I had finally had enough courage to get up and turn on the light, grabbed a bat, and walked out to the hallway. I turned on every light in the apartment and started watching TV to settle myself down. It was only 5 a.m. and it was still dark outside. After a few minutes, a fuse blew and I was stuck in the darkness again. When I heard my dog, Lucy, who was screaming like something was hurting her, I grabbed my keys and got the hell out of the apartment. Once the sun came up and I had calmed down again, I was back inside to an eerily quiet apartment. I couldn't find Lucy anywhere. The windows and doors were all closed, so she couldn't have gotten out. But then I heard her yelping again, from the bathroom this time. I ran in to see her soaking wet. As I was drying her off, I began to hear what sounded like boxes dragging on the floor of the attic above me. I walked out to the hallway, and as I was under the entrance to the attic, I heard what sounded like a little kid whisper, "It's your turn." Then all went quiet. Later that morning, I called the landlord to tell him what had happened, and I told him about the whispering. He said, "Oh, you heard that too." Then proceeded to tell me about that the previous tenants had heard whispering as well. I stayed in that apartment for 18 months, and I heard whispering a couple times, and then had the board that was leading into the attic break twice. I still hear from the landlord from time to time when the current tenants have encounters. I simply tell them, "Not my concern anymore." Yeah, I think that would be kind of crazy.
Yeah. So here's one that takes place in a hospital. The red wristband. A doctor was working at a hospital where the patients were tagged with colored bands: green for alive, red for deceased. One night, the doctor was instructed to get a few supplies from the basement of the hospital, so he headed to the lift. The lift doors were open, and there was a patient inside minding their own business. Patients were allowed to roam around the hospital to stretch, especially those who had stayed up long. The rule was to be back in their rooms before 10. The doctor smiled at the patient before pressing the number for the basement. He found it unusual that the woman didn't have a button already pressed. She was just standing in the elevator. He wondered if she was heading to the basement too. The lift finally reached the floor where the doors opened. In the distance, a man was limping towards the elevator, and in a panic, the doctor slammed the elevator door to close. It finally did. So slam the elevator button to close the door. God, well, I screwed this one up. It finally did. It finally did, and the lift began to go back up. Doctor's heart pounding. Why did you do that? He was trying to use the lift, the woman stated. Did you see his wrist? The doctor asked. It was red. He died last night. I would know because I did his surgery. The woman lifted her wrist and he saw red, and she smiled. Like this one?
Oh. I'm trying to find another one that I read, but I didn't save it. Nope, not it. Stories. Well, that's not the site.
So, what about scary stories that have actually happened to you?
To me?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've told the current ones about things being moved in the house and everything. I don't know if this one was if I was asleep or if I was awake, but I used to live in the house that my mom grew up in. And my grandparents, I think, had both passed at the time, so I was living there by myself. And one night, I had two cats. So one night we were sleeping. I believe it was overnight. We were sleeping, and all of a sudden, I heard steps coming up the from the basement. My bedroom door is like right next to the basement steps, and there's a door that opens and closes to go in the basement. I remember hearing the steps. The cats kind of reacted to it, and I couldn't see if the door was closed from my bed. I couldn't see the door at all, but when it was all the way open, I could see it. So I heard the steps coming up the steps, and then I heard the door kind of creaking open, and I eventually saw it, but I was too scared to move, and this was 30 years ago ish. So I don't know if I never saw anything come out of there, and I think I fell asleep right after that. So, and I know I didn't get up. So, I mean, that's kind of where I was wondering if that was me dreaming something or if it actually happened. But it was the exact setting of my bedroom and the house that I was in. The cats were there and everything. So I don't know. I don't know about that. What about you?
I'm going to tell one that I haven't told a whole lot, so I don't know if everybody's heard it or not. This one happened after my dog man encounter, and I don't talk about it a whole lot because, I wasn't sure that it was connected. And but Jason's always, man, you need to tell it. That's So anyway, what happened was I was at home by myself, and here I am, a teenager, 16 years old, 17 years old, and I wasn't a small guy. I mean, I was beefy back then, man, and I could take care of myself, but this this scared the hell out of me. So I'm alone one night at home. My parents were out of town, and in fact, everybody was out of town. I was the only one there, and but it started storming, and lightning was crashing and everything. And I've always been I've always loved storms, so I'm checking them out out the window and stuff, and I see the lightning flash, and from the back of the house, and I'm looking out the kitchen window, and I see this what looks like a figure standing next to this power pole that's on our fence line. And I'm like, what in the world? And I thought I was seeing stuff, you know. So I'm standing there and I'm watching, and the lightning flashes again, and it's there, and I can tell it's there, but it's changed position. It's like leaning on the pole now.
Oh.
I'm like, okay, this is crazy, right? Who's going to be out in the middle of the freaking country, standing out in the damn thunderstorm next to a power pole, right?
Yeah.
So I'm watching this thing, and I'm watching it, and it like changes positions every once in a while. But I only catch glimpses of it when the lightning flashes, and it's like watching the house.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, my mind starts going back to what I saw, and I start freaking out a little bit. And this was in that time of when I was like scared of the dark, and
Mm-hmm.
so I get my dad's gun, I load it up, and I I'm freaking out, and I call a buddy of mine I went, was a friend of mine that I went to school with, and I'm sitting there, and I'm on the phone with him. I've got the gun in one hand and the phone in the other, and I'm watching out this. I'm peeking out the blinds, watching this thing.
Yep.
And he's like, "Oh, you're not, it's nothing," because he didn't know about what else I experienced. I didn't want to tell him, I just think I'm crazy. So I sit there and I watch this thing. I couldn't freaking sleep all night, but this thing stayed there for it seemed like forever. It had to be a couple hours, and then the lightning flashed one time and it was gone. Really? So now I'm thinking, oh my God, this thing's creeping around the house, and I'm locking doors, I'm locking windows, I've got the gun loaded. I'm trying to figure out where's the best place to sit, because I'm convinced that this thing's going to come get me. I'm totally alone on the property, just the dogs, and they're huddled under, because it's raining and storming. They're huddled up, and we don't. At that point, we didn't keep dogs in the house; they were all outside dogs. But yeah, I waited. I waited until I finally fell asleep when it started getting daylight. I just couldn't stay awake any longer.
Wow.
Nothing like that ever happened again. And I went out the next day, and I'm like, okay, was I seeing stuff? There was absolutely nothing next to the power pole, just a barbed wire fence. Wow. No tree, no nothing.
Holy cow. That's nuts.
So that happened.
And you said that was after your dog man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I can see why that would freak you out. Yeah. Dang.
Yeah, and to this day, I don't know what it was. I don't even know why the hell a dog man would be standing out in the storms, but they do like to, it seems like they like to mess with you, so it could have been doing that. It was like 60 yards from the 50, 60 yards from the house, it was across the field and backyard and everything. So I couldn't see nothing but a silhouette, but yeah. Wow. Little Patty says, text, tell the one about patting your daughter on the head. Yeah, because Donny tried to tell that story and he butchered it.
Actually, real quick before you tell that story, BMR is in line at the store watching. If anybody needs anything, let him know, and then he'll be more than happy to grab it for you and mail it to you.
Good to know. Right. Good to know. I'll shoot you a list. But in fact, go pick up my meds for me and bring them back. I'll expect you by the end of the show. But yeah, so we lived in this house. We had some funky things happen. My wife thought she saw me walking up the stairs when I was, sitting on the couch with her head in my lap. She got had her name called. I saw a full body apparition, but we didn't get any like bad feelings. It was more of a protective that thing, you know. And I actually asked Danielle on her show what she thought about this particular circumstance. And so anyway, one night we go to bed, and our dog slept in the bed with us as much as I kicked her out. But so I wake up, and if you've ever had little kids, you know, they crawl into bed with you, you know, toss and turn, and you end up with feet in your back, and you're like, screw it, I'll just go sleep on the couch, you know. So that's what was happening. So I woke up, I had feet in my back, I sat up on the edge of the bed, and I turned around and looked over my shoulder, and it was my wife, the dog, and my youngest daughter in bed. And my youngest daughter had the covers all the way up to here, and all I could see was the top of her head and her hair, you know, just her hair. And I said, okay, I see how this is going to go. So I reached over and I patted her on the head, and I got up. I said, well, I'll just go crash in her room, right? So I get up, I walk upstairs, flip on the hallway light, and she's laying in her bed. So at this point, I'm so used to the stuff happening. I'm just like, I remember saying to myself out loud, going, all right. Flipped the light back off, went back downstairs, walked in my bedroom, and it was just my wife and the dog in the bed.
Wow. And you
physically touched it, yes.
And it felt like a head. I mean, holy cow. And she wouldn't have run past you or anything, or you wouldn't have gone to the bathroom and
No, I went straight from my room up, you know, and there was only one way, you know, she would have passed me.
Wow.
So yeah.
See you, Krista. Hope you have. Hope you're properly caffeinated for your Zoom meeting.
Right.
Wow, that's freaky. That's freaky. Yeah. So I don't know if you all remember all the stuff that's been happening here. We've had stuff, you know, flipping off the counters. Two things flipping off the counters, one falling into the sink in the bathroom, one falling in the sink in the kitchen. And I didn't tell you this. I actually just happened right before we went to Ray County. So we have this thing on our wall that has it has a bunch of plastic words on there. It says a family is, and it has fun, together, love, laughter, memories forever, kind, home, stuff like that. So, and we have pictures of ourselves. That's what our dining room wall looks like.
Right.
So, and from that picture to looking at that wall to the right is our kitchen, and on the other side of the kitchen, my wife was sitting on her computer watching a show or something, and I was near her or something watching something on TV. And all of a sudden, we heard something crash, and we looked at each other like, "What the F is that?" So I'm looking around the house, flipped the light on in the dining room, and from that little collage thing, the word kind had fallen off the wall and onto the floor. And this was about 10 o'clock at night. No trucks gone by. Nobody was hammering on the wall. My son's room is right above that. I don't think he was home at the time. So he wasn't jumping up and down on his floor or anything. So nothing was vibrating the walls.
Right.
So I don't know what that was. Something didn't like the word kind or whatever and flipped that off.
Or maybe it did.
Or maybe it did. Maybe it did. So anyway, all this stuff has pretty much happened since I got back from Brumley, Missouri, in the haunted castle house. So Saturday night, I'm having a medium on the show. Her name's Julie Marie. She's been on here several times. So she's going to come back, do some readings for people and stuff. And I'm going to ask her if I'm going to kind of bring these stories up to her and kind of get her take on it. So, right. Because nothing really feels negative around here. I mean, it could just be something, trying to get our attention. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, nothing is really weird. Medium rare, yeah. Thanks, Freaky. But yeah, it's just been really kind of odd around here. But
Yeah,
luckily,
I haven't had anything happen here since the whatever.
voice.
Asked me how I was doing in the shower.
I'd ask Danielle. Yeah, that's a good idea too.
Yeah, you can ask her for sure.
Yeah, I might hop on her show next Monday. If
There you go.
I'm sure Jilly will give me a good explanation Saturday night. So that is coming up Saturday. So make sure that you have, if you want to get a reading or something, make sure you tune in on Saturday. Had a great weekend up in Ray County Saturday night. Greg,
y'all had a lot of activity.
Oh my God, it was. I talked to Kathy afterwards, and she was saying it was off the charts. It hadn't been this active in a long time. So we had a lot of fun stuff going on while we were on live with me and on BMR show. We had a lot of stuff going on. I'm just now starting to review some of the footage that we had in between all those lives. So we were sitting in the basement. It was Brandy, me, and a bunch of other people were down there, and we have one of those laser grids going shining on the wall, and it was sitting on, kind of leaning up on a box, upside down box, so we can kind of shoot it towards the wall.
Right.
And we were trying to talk to it, and we couldn't get any responses. We couldn't get it to walk past or through the grid or anything. And all of a sudden, the laser, no one was touching it, no one was moving. It was a concrete floor, so you can jump up and down next to it, and it's not going to move. All of a sudden, the thing rolls off. No one touched it. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I have that on camera. I still have to look at that. So, yeah. Hey, Wendy. So that's gonna.
Yeah, Wendy said she just ran across the show and wasn't subbed, and she is now. So.
Oh, thank you, Wendy. I appreciate that. Awesome. Glad to have you here.
She's a Porch regular, has been for a long, long time.
Yeah. And Freaky, of course, asked, what were you driving to run the show over? Freaky. Hi, Jason. Jason's here.
Mr. Finch.
Jason to everybody else. Mr. Finch. So.
Jason Finch. No, Finch. Jason Finch. That's what.
So. But I found that site that I was on, and I want to read this one other story. And I don't know if this is a true story or what. And we can make this the last one, and then we can get going here.
Greg says while he was using the God helmet, I hate the name of that thing. Y'all got to come up with a different name.
Yeah.
There was a flash of blue light in the room.
Really?
Yeah.
And he was down in the little chapel where I was sleeping, by the way, by myself. Interesting. Terry Mosby was using that helmet upstairs too, and she was looking. I mean, she could see through walls and stuff, and there was we're down in the basement, I think, and she saw somebody with an axe. So, yeah.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, that was watching us. So anyway, I was just
watching some true crime stuff, catching up on some stuff, and I just watched an episode about the axe killer and the axe man in New Orleans.
Really?
Yeah, he was like killing all these people and everything, and he came out and said he wrote a letter, and they announced it on the radio. I think it was. He said He'll be strolling through the city that's a certain time, and anybody playing jazz music is safe.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So
And it
Greg
was weird
said,
because nobody
I
got
saw
killed in it.
I saw a vision of an alien while using the helmet. Wow.
Yeah, see, I don't know about all that.
That's crazy. Well, when Terry was using the helmet, the room that she saw the guy holding the axe in was actually in the the equipment room. It had all kinds of old saws and stuff in that room. So yeah, but that thing was pretty cool. That was cool. So anyway, this one last story here, real quick. I'm a psychiatric nurse, and early in my career, I worked at a residential mental health facility. One of our residents was an elective mute, which means that he wouldn't, or couldn't talk, but there was no medical reasons as to why. He has spoken earlier in his life, and in fact seemed quite normal back then, with the exception of being close to 7 feet tall. He'd been raised in the Deep South and joined the military when he was 19, but one night he vanished. He was declared AWOL and eventually was declared missing and then dead. 10 years later, a 7-foot tall man walked into a VA hospital emergency room in my part of the Midwest and said to the receptionist, "My name is Marion Duchesne," not his real name, "and I've been dead for 10 years. Those were the last words he ever spoke. He was covered in dust and he was wearing the same clothes that he'd been reported to be wearing the night he vanished. His social security number had not been used and he had no identification on his person. However, they were able to identify him through fingerprints. The family was notified, but they said they had already grieved their lost man, and whomever was claiming to be this guy simply could not be him. They demanded not to be contacted again. I understand that part. Marion paced all day, every day, moving his mouth that looked like talking or muttering, but no sound came out. He had an unnerving habit of throwing his head back with his mouth wide open as if he were laughing heartily, but not even a breath could be heard. If I talked to him, he appeared to be listening, periodically throwing his head back with a laughter mimic way of his. Various medications were tried, but they did not affect him either positively or negatively. Occupational therapy did nothing because Marion would just grin, and unless told to stay put, he would get up and start pacing again. On my last day at the job, the last thing I saw was Marion pacing in the parking lot, throwing his head back to laugh. Later, I wondered if all along I'd been dealing with a ghost. All these years later, I still don't know. I had read that story before, and that or some other place, and that was a pretty interesting story, I thought.
Yeah, that's pretty creepy.
Yeah.
So I told everybody we'd be dressed up tomorrow.
We're dressing up tomorrow. Okay.
We're dressing up tomorrow.
Okay. And also tomorrow night on the show and tell show, we're going to be dressing up, and we're going to be telling encounters that terrify us. We're each going to have a different encounter. We're supposed to all dress up. So
cool.
Now I need to decide if I want to wear the same thing or if I want to wear something. I'm going to wear something different. I have all kinds of options here. You should see my attic. Or I could just put a dummy right here and I just have my voice off camera. There
you go.
So
I think I'm going to buy a puppet, do the whole show with a puppet.
Oh, I forgot. This guy's green and he keys out on my my green screen. Well, here, let's just do this. Hang on a second. I'm going to take the green screen off, so you're going to see my... Oh, maybe I won't. Actually, this is a... there we go. Okay, so this is an actual dog toy that we found at PetSmart, I believe. It's an alien that says, "I believe." So we got one for one of our dogs, and then one for me. So I keep him right up here with me.
Cool.
So yeah. And let's put that back on. Oop, wrong one. There we go. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for joining us tonight. Or this afternoon. I certainly appreciate that. Why is it's King weird? I'll fix that later. And thank you, Tex, for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Hope the shingles. I hope the medicine can relieve you from your discomfort there. So
yeah, because as soon as I get it through here, I'm headed out the door to go down the road and get them. So
all right, let's get you out of here, buddy. So everybody, we will see you. So tonight, hope to see you guys tonight in BMR's chat. If not, tomorrow we have our show, Waking Up Weird in the morning, and then show and tell at night. So shows all over the place tonight. So we will talk to you guys later.
Thanks. See y'all later.
There we go.